Imagine you achieved everything you wanted. You got the house, you got the car, you got the job, you got the girlfriend, you got the boyfriend, you got the salary, you got the holiday, you got everything. Surely then you'd be happy, right? No, and don't take my word for it. Listen to these guys.
I had bought into the not uncommon notion that when I taste success, when I get over there, then I'll be happy. But the strangest thing happened. As the show got more successful, I got more depressed.
People were wondering, well, how could you be sad when all of these opportunities come to you? The fact that you're overstimulated, it's like you have so much of these things, but they really don't equal out to emotional support.
And very successful people tend to be insecure. Are you insecure?
I think everyone's insecure, yeah, of course I'm insecure. Everyone I know is insecure. I think successful people are overly insecure because you have people kind of poking holes in you the whole time.
I feel like I've experienced this on a small scale. Nowhere near what these guys have experienced, but simple things like finally getting to the end of an exam season, or finally getting down to like your dream like physique or how you want to look. Finally making the friends that you always wanted after a period of being so lonely. Big, small, expensive or not, you can have and achieve anything you want and still be depressed. Let's unpack all that and more in this video. Looking into this topic online, I was met with a lot of information. I was met with two sides. I was met with the celebrity side, people that have achieved massive astronomical fame, success and money, who are still very unhappy and quite empty inside. And then I think I experienced kind of like the normal side of it, people that have kind of had like, oh my god, I got my dream job, or oh my god, I finally got married. And the general consensus is that these things that you once literally dreamed of and they were like beyond your wildest imaginations, you can get them and still at best feel the same, and at worst honestly feel depressed.
Because you don't feel any different, like a light never went off when I was like, okay, I'm a new me, so it's hard when people treat you differently when you don't feel any differently. It's alienating.
I'd like to say that this was a shock, but it kind of wasn't, because honestly we've all had it on a small scale. None of us might be George Clooney, but all of us have gotten like a Christmas present or a birthday present that you've always wanted. Like, I'm sure you've been desperate for like the latest iPhone or like a new piece of tech, and you finally get it, and at that moment in time you're like elated, and then just time does her thing, and then you finally you don't feel ecstatic about that thing anymore, and you literally revert back to zero. I'm sure there's 1,000,001 terms to explain this topic. I don't know what they are. I just turn on the camera and start talking. I don't know what this was all called. But one thing I did find out when I was looking into this online is there is such a thing called the arrival fallacy. I did make a bunch of notes on this. Christina last week was really into this, because honestly I wish you could see my Notion page on this. There's so many notes. The guy who came up with this kind of wrote a book all about the topic of happiness. It's called Shock Happier. It's by a guy called Tal Ben-Shahar, and he said a classic example is when top students at top universities work hard every semester, and they might feel stressed and unhappy despite excelling in every exam, and they might feel great once they get the grade, but they'll dip back to their baseline level of happiness. And it's the same with Olympians as well. They'll work super hard for the Olympics or whatever championships they're at, and they might feel ecstatic when they're on the podium, bronze, silver, maybe even gold, but you just revert back to your baseline level of happiness.
Two-time Olympian Chris Corning here with us.
And once you get there, it's like it kind of all blows up. Wow, there's so much going on. There's so much media. Everything is going on. And then you kind of come home, and it can be really tough for athletes when they come home because it kind of just falls off. A lot of people will be talking to you, how was the Olympics? How was this? And you're kind of a big deal. And then all of a sudden, it's kind of gone.
And I know this might sound ridiculous to compare Olympians and Harvard, Yale students to Christmas presents, but we've all had this. We've all had a birthday present that we were buzzing for, and then you're just I don't know, you don't even notice it happening. You don't notice the switch. You notice the switch when you get the thing, and you feel different instantly when you rip off the wrapping paper and you've got that thing, you've got the latest iPhone, but then you don't notice the switch when you're back to normal. That's more gradual. There are 3 key problems with the arrival fallacy. You tend to postpone your happiness into the future. It's hard not to do this. I'm sure we can all understand this problem. When you're training to be the #1 runner in the Olympics, you think you're going to be happy when you get bronze, or when you get silver, when you get gold. And I don't know, obviously, yeah, you're working so hard, you're working for a reason. No, it's quite rare for people to work hard purely just aimlessly, right? No one works hard aimlessly for no end goal. Like, of course you're going to be happy when your hard work amounts to something, but it's a problem because it's the exact reason that causes us to work super hard for something that we will eventually get and then just revert back to our normal level of happiness or even depression. Another problem is that too many goals can make you materialistic. I definitely see this as, I'm not even a materialistic person, but I think I'm too like goal orientated. Once I've achieved one goal, I literally just like instantly think of the next. I don't even give myself time to enjoy it. Like, it's such a shit. I was literally telling one of my friends, like, I could win the Nobel Prize and I wouldn't celebrate that. I wouldn't tell anyone. I wouldn't share it. I wouldn't hype myself up. I wouldn't give myself a moment of pride before I'd just be like, on to the next thing. And maybe that's a testament to hard work, sure, but it's not a testament to like good mental health. Like, that is not good for you long term. To work so immensely for something, whether it's an intrinsic goal, like, I don't know, like achieving something internally, or whether it's an external goal, like making a certain amount of money or getting a bag, getting a car, like whatever the reason is, like anytime you do achieve something, you should celebrate. And I'm saying this as a massive hypocrite because I do not celebrate myself. The arrival fallacy is also a big fat problem because you make your goal kind of a fantasy and not a reality. This is the biggest one that I think I do, where I'll think of the goal that I wanted. The longest time it was to get into medical school. Literally my first ever life goal, I think. I didn't have many like life goals before that because I was only like 15 at the time. I literally read so much into medical school life, what it was like to study, but even though I knew about the good parts, the bad parts, the ugly and everything, it was still very much a fantasy. Like, I didn't kind of make it like a reality sort of thing. I'd made it out in my head that like when I get this thing, when I finally get into medical school, when I start on the first day, like, oh my god, I would have made it. Like, then I'll finally be happy. Then I'll be super like impressed with myself. I'll be super confident. And I definitely was briefly, until I found out that we had exams, and then I was like back into work mode. I need to get the best result on my exams. Like, I didn't even give myself a moment to enjoy it, even though it was such a fantasy that I built up. And the problem with making anything a fantasy, like for example, like a spouse, like a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whoever, is like you can make it a fantasy and not a reality, to the point that when you do eventually meet that person or get that spouse, it's then like you don't have as much patience for their bad parts, or the parts that like were unexpected, the parts that you didn't fantasize about, because you literally just made it like an unrealistic thing. And it's literally in the name, unrealistic, like unreality. Like you've not made it compatible with reality, you've made it too much of a fantasy. A big reason we set goals, I'm convinced, is to escape insecurity. If you're someone that hasn't had the most conventional childhood or upbringing, time at school, time in college, time in work, and you've had a rough time, like emotionally, where you've battled a lot of insecurities, I think it's a very common coping mechanism to like work hard as a result. Like, if you've been teased about your looks, or you've been teased about your weight, or you've been teased about literally anything, I think it's natural for you to kind of like turn inward and turn into like yourself, and then put that into your work. You want an outlet in some way to cope with these emotions, and sometimes I think you do that by like working super hard in exams or at your job or at the gym. Like, I think hard work sometimes is a reflection of an insecurity, and not in a bad way at all. Like, not that hardworking people are insecure, but I just think hardworking people maybe have an insecurity from the past that they're trying to outwork.
I realized that even though I had achieved all those things, on the inside I was still that same insecure little boy that was trying to prove something, you know, to you know, girls that had cheated, and to my father and all of that, and that you can't achieve your way out of your, you know, childhood wounds and traumas.
You can't fake it.
You can't fake it.
Kind of like you deep down tell yourself, like, if I work enough and I get to this goal of my dream physique, my dream weight at the gym, my dream like my dream professional job, like you then think you won't feel insecure anymore. Like, you're trying to escape your insecurity in a way through work, which could potentially be why some of these people struggle the most with the arrival fallacy, because it's built up so much in your mind. You built up so much of a belief that like confidence lives over there with the goal. Like, confidence lives in that dream physique that you have, or in that job as a professor, as a scholar, as a lab assistant. I don't know what dream jobs people have these days. But then if you fall into that trap, you'll feel okay along the way, like insecure, and then you get the goal, you're like, oh, I'm confident now. Confident, and you feel confident for a while initially, because it's the switch again. Like, you have the switch, it's flipped. And then you settle back to how you felt before, which was insecure. So bearing this in mind helps me to just reflect a little bit more sometimes when I'm setting my goals, to realise that, Christina, if you're trying to achieve this goal of of whatever it is. Like for the longest time, a goal of mine was like 100,000 on YouTube. Like, okay, why do you want it though? Like, do you want it to feel confident and to feel successful? Because honestly, if you feel insecure along the way, and then okay, maybe you do get 100k, like you're gonna settle back to that feeling. Like that is just the arrival fallacy. And I think there are ways around the arrival fallacy. I think there are ways that you can achieve the goal that you want. You can have the goal that you want and still be happy, but you have to kind of approach the goal in the right way. Like you can't approach it from a standpoint of the goal will give me happiness and will give me a feeling of accomplishment. You kind of have to have that already. And if you don't have that, you can still achieve the goal. Like people do all the time. Like I'm sure you and me both have. Going forward, there's a few things that I'm changing to make sure that I'm setting goals in the right way and setting goals that hopefully when I achieve them, I'll still be happy and maintain a good level of happiness rather than be just like depressed afterwards. Starting off, don't make your goals synonymous with perfection. It goes back to the fantasy thing. I'm really going to break the bad habit of thinking that each goal that I have, and some of my goals are very like normal and like not astronomical this year. Like one of my goals is to learn the piano. I'm literally on Facebook Marketplace every day trying to find like a cheap keyboard that I can buy just to like start learning. But I want to set goals that I'll be happy along the way to achieving the goal. Something else I'm doing, which I honestly think needs to become a trend, because I think the opposite of this is really toxic, but I'm setting qualitative goals rather than quantitative goals. And if you don't know what those two are, it's basically qualitative is just like words, like descriptions, phrases, like words, and then quantitative is numbers. So a really common like quantitative goal is like I want to earn £5,000 a month. I want this many followers. I want like 10,000 followers. I want 2 pay rises this year. Like it all involves numbers, whereas qualitative is things like I want to learn to play the piano. I want to make videos that I enjoy and that are fulfilling me. I want to take more time out for myself and have more breaks. Like I want to spend more time in nature and like have more fresh air and more healthy time for myself. Those are all qualitative goals because there's no numbers involved and they're very descriptive. And I think this is important because sometimes quantitative goals with the numbers can sometimes be really toxic on your mental health. Like for example, say you set the goal of I want to get 80% on my next assignment and you get 76%. Hopefully you'll feel amazing because you literally were nearly there, like you practically got it. But then part of your brain might just like be kicking yourself and be super hard on yourself that you didn't get there. Like with the numbers, because it's so precise, it's good because you know if you've achieved it or not. Like it's a yes or no, it's black or white. But then it's also like super harsh when you like fall short. It's even harsh when you do achieve it. Like if you get 82, you might be like, oh, I could have got 85. I could have got 90. Like I think sometimes with the numbers, you can be too analytical and a bit too harsh on yourself because of how precise it is. But then with the qualitative goals, it's a lot more ambiguous. It's a lot more gentle, I think, on your mental health. That's what I'm doing this year.
And I've been really outspoken about like anxiety and whatever. And I feel like I've realized, especially in the last couple months, I've taken a big journey in realizing that that's totally like the brain can change and you can really work to improve that.
Sometimes I think when you're a goal-driven person, your life can literally just be like moving from goal to goal to goal with like kind of like you're like living for the goal and you're not living for like just the moments in between, like the little things. I've made an entire video on this topic, how being smart can sometimes ruin your identity and how working super hard and striving for the next thing after the next thing can rob you of a personality and kind of make you just constantly have identity crises. Like if you've ever had an identity crisis, you know how like weird it is. Like when I say you don't know who you are, you literally don't know who you are. So if that rings a bell, honestly, watch this video. But that's enough from me. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.